Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing the next API and microservice project called Request Header Parser Microservice. If you haven't watched the two videos previous to that, those are pretty important for this because I go through a lot of the details of how I've gotten to this point now, and so you might get confused if you aren't starting from those previous videos. So with the Request Header Parser, we're going to build a full stack JavaScript app that's functionally similar to this header parser. And if I open this in a new tab, you can see if we go to the who am I, it just gives us information about ourselves. So yeah, this is the API, and it goes to the base URL API-who am I. And so we're going to want to make a route and a control that directs information back to this. So if you're looking at this, you're seeing my local IP address here. My local language is English, so yours will probably be different if you're in a different place. And then this is just the stack of software that I'm using as a browser. So that's what we're going to be doing. This one's actually going to be kind of simple. Working on this project will involve you writing code in REPL.it. After you complete the project, you can public REPL.it into the screen. We're not going to do that. We're going to build this into our existing API. Optionally, you may choose to write your own projects. That's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do, there's say start this project on REPL.it using this link or clone this repository. So I'm going to open this repository in GitHub. If you use REPL.it, remember to save the link to your project somewhere safe. Okay, cool. So here we have the GitHub project for the parser. And so we're basically going to combine this with my portfolio app on GitHub. And so, yeah, let's see. Well, here, we'll start off on the terminal. I've got, on my second tab, I've got my local app running. So if I refresh the page here, you'll see I still have my timestamp microservices from the last project. And so my next project, what I want to do is add this to a header parser. And so I can come back over here. If I press Atom and then I put a period. Atom is my text editor. If you have something else like Sublime, you could do Sublime period. Or if you have Virtual Studio, whatever, you can do that period. So I use Atom, and I just start with Atom. And so on our home page, on our views, on our index page, we can start by adding a new list item for this project. So we could go, I'm going to go list item, and I'm going to go href, and we're going to call this one request header parser. And I'm going to write in here request header parser, and then close the list item. And now if I save this on my local drive, I'll be able to go to request header parser. Now that's not going to work because we don't have a controller, right? So we want to set that up. So we're going to open up the server. And then we're basically going to copy the timestamp route. Oops. But instead of calling timestamp, and I'm pressing Command and double clicking, and here now I can go request header parser. And now if I save that and refresh the page, we still get that. So what are we missing? Cannot get request get header parser. Request header parser, views. Well, it's possible that it's because we don't have a view in here. Request header parser. Okay, so we add that in here, and I'm just going to add in one request header parser. We're going to change all this later, but I'm just stubbing this in here. And so now I'm going to come back over here and refresh the page, and we're still getting that error. So what are we missing? Okay, so here's our routes with the timestamp, and here is our route. Yes, because timestamp works for us right now. And so we're missing, what are we missing? Oh, perhaps we have to, because it's okay, so what I'm thinking is we have to stop the server and then restart the server. And then I'm going to go back to localhost 3000. Okay, now I've got request header parser, and now this is just RHP. Now I just stubbed that in there. We don't actually need that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over to here, and I'm going to look for the views. And they've got, this is their index page for the request header parser. For this project, we're going to just stub this in to our view. So I'm going to copy this HTML, go back to the request header parser.html, and then paste this in. And now when I save this and we visit on our local host, the header parser, and we refresh, we've got the information here. And that's helpful. So yeah, look at this, the base URL. I wonder why it doesn't have a link to it. Yeah, we can just make this so it's A and then href, and then we are going to go /API/who am I. And then we'll close this. So now what we're doing is just making it so that this is a link. For some reason that didn't port over. And so now we can see that this, if we click this link, it'll take us to the API, who am I? And that's where we're getting our errors. And so our next thing that we're going to want to do is come back over here. Now, a lot of the stuff in the README, we don't need to have, oh, this is the wrong one. Here's the board of the project. We come back to the original page. The package is pretty much going to be the same. I don't think that there's any difference, but there's going to be, most of the instructions for this are here in there, in the server.js file. Okay, cool. So now that we've got the information there and we've got a link to it, we can kind of close this. We're not going to need that page again. And now what we're going to be doing is adding more to our server.js file here. We can get rid of, oh, these are the old project ones. So one thing I want to do now is I want to check my Git status. So I have not been pushing up the changes to the portfolio page. So if you go to Useful Program Heroku app right now, we still have our timestamp microservice on the top. In the last video, I did not push to Heroku, so now we should push our changes. So if we go Git status, we can see we've updated the server with new routing, and for the request header parser, we've updated the home page with the HTML which links to the request header parser, and then we've also added views, and it looks like we updated the timestamp HTML as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say git add, and then I'm going to say git commit, and I'm going to add a message to this. Update server with routes to request header parser. Add request header parser HTML to views, and it looks like we update timestamp. Now it's just good to get in the habit of saving like multi-line requests, because sometimes if say you made an error and you want to be able to roll back, having some descriptive comments on your git commits is very useful. Having useful messages in your git commits is very useful. And so then we want to push this. So we want to say git, if we say git push, it's going to push it up to Useful Programmer app on the GitHub, so we can store this and we can use GitHub as kind of a way to practice. You'll see if I refresh the page, 10 days ago is where it was here, and now it says 33 seconds ago I updated the views. And so that just shows we're making progress here. And now I want to push this code to Heroku. So I'm going to say git push Heroku master. Before I run this command, I just want to show you that if we run this page, it seems to be timing out for some reason. But right now we have that timestamp and microservices at the top. If we go git push Heroku master, we're going to find now that it looks, we're taking the code, so instead of having our code from our last project, now we'll have this guy at our home page. And so once this completes, we're deploying to Heroku right now. We're deploying a new version of that. Cool. And so it says that it was done complete, deployed to Heroku. It was a success. So now we can just refresh this page, and it should show us the right one. And since I'm on the hobby version, when you're on the hobby version of Heroku apps, they take a while to spin up, and sometimes you have to wait for the app to just turn on. It's like they have to turn their servers on or something like that. If you just want to pay for it, I think you can get in and just pay a little bit, and then you'll have it be running really fast. But if you don't want to do that, you can just wait until it loads the first time, and then after you load it the first time, it'll start going more quickly as long as you're actively developing it. So we'll just hold on until this comes through. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so one thing I wanted to make a note of is if I opened up a new tab in my, so I've got, here is like what I use for kind of making things happen. Here is where I run the server locally. Here I ran a command called Heroku logs, and then -- tail. And this gives you server information. So this is the one that was able to tell me when I wasn't working. I checked it in here, and it said that it went from starting up to starting. And this is where you'll see errors. So if you have like weird errors with your Node app, you can look in here for your things, and you'll see if you watch this terminal, as I click to request header parser, you'll see that there's actually stuff happening here. So it's saying you called a get header parser for your path, and so here's where you can see your errors and what's happening there and everything like that. Okay, so onward and upward. Now what we want to do is have it so that we pass the tests over here. If we were to go to our API Microservices project here, and we were to throw in our Heroku app domain, and we put this into our solution, we said completed this task, we would fail. It says your IP address should be returned in the IP address key, your preferred language should be returned in the language key, and your software should be returned in the software key. And if we come over here and we go to our time request header and we click on the who am I, we're going to get a no get response thing. Okay, so let's go to the boiler project, and on their server they're going to have a lot of things. We don't want to duplicate any of our code, and we want to leave some stuff the same. So we've got our setting of our request. I'll leave this in here for now. So we've got our app. We've done our port specialized in a special way. This is examined in the previous videos, but we don't want to change that. This CORS thing and this, I'm not exactly sure what they do, but we'll just leave them there. We have static express. So this tells us where we're getting our static files from. And then we have our basic routing. So this is where things get a little bit different. Okay, so here we have it's set to that. We have the root URL set to send them to the index file. We already have that, but we've adjusted that. And so we actually have our additional GET request for this. And then we've just got one more. So it's really all we're doing now is just adding it to the API. So I'm going to look at this. This is API hello is where we want to add our information, right? API.get, API.get. Okay, so here we have API timestamp. This is hello. So this one actually does the same thing. Okay, so what they're going to have us do, okay, we've already got hello in there. And then we've got the listen and the port stuff all down here. Now, we don't want to get rid of any of this code because this code makes it so that this shows us that we successfully completed the timestamp one. And so now we want to just focus on, I guess we're just going to write a brand new GET request. And that should be for, what was it? API-who am I. Here's the example of the API. So who am I starts with a W, and so I want to add that to the GET requests. API timestamps, W is after that, and so I'm going to add it down here because I want it to be in alphabetical order. If it was API-allow me to introduce myself, it starts with an A, and therefore it would go up to the top because it makes it easier for organization. So what we want to do is app.get, and we're going to say /API/who am I. And I don't think that we need to pass in a return value. So our next thing we can do is go to function and then do request and result. That's just standard node practice. Cool. And so, well, maybe the first thing that I could do is just do like a res.json. And then in here, I'll just say something like value. Our results will go here. Cool. And now this is just a quick stubbed in one. And if I save here and we come back over, we see I've got npm start running in this one, and that's in the folder. And so that means locally on my local server, this API who am I now should get some results. So I'm just going back to the who am I. It's not happening. So what I'm thinking is we need to restart the server. So I can press Command C to stop the server, and then I'm going to run npm start to run the server, and we're listening on port 3000. So we should be able to go port 3000, request header parser, and then go to API who am I, and we're not getting it. So I'm doing something wrong. Let me look at this. Okay, so here's my mistake. I've been adding this GET request inside of this GET request. So I'm going to I'm going to cut that out of here, and you'll see that this actually is all within one GET request, which is a massive mistake. So I was adding a GET request to the timestamp thing. We need to put this down here so that it is in its own scope, right? Because we had it in the scope of a previous GET request, and so we want it to be like that. So if I save this, now if I refresh this, it still doesn't work. Let's stop the server and rerun it. And now if I refresh, okay, our results will go here. Okay, cool. So now we have, now it's functioning. If we go to the base request and we get a value. Now that's not the value we want, but now we know that this is the, this is what we're playing with. And so what we want to do is have the IP address, right? And so we need to find out how to receive how to get the IP address from the request, right? And so the request object is this kind of big thing. Let's just send back. Let's see if we can save this and just say value, and then we just return the request. If I go back to our local host and refresh this page, okay, again, we're gonna have to restart the server. And then if I refresh here, you can say, okay, it's saying we can't get the request. Because it's a circular one. So what if we do the response? I'm going to stop the server, restart the server, refresh the server. Okay, so now we've got to figure out what parts of it we want. I'm going to refresh. Wait, stop the server, save the value as a response. Well, what were we doing earlier? UTC. res.json. I think we could go like object.keys of the request. Let's see if we do that. So if I save that, npm start on the server, and then refresh the page. Okay, cool. So I was able to go, now this is the keys of this request object that we've had sent back to us. And so this, it has a lot of keys, right? And so what we're looking for is IP, right? So how do you say get IP address from user from node request? So let IP equal rec.ip. Okay, so maybe we'll add another value in here, and I'm just going to say this one. I'm going to say IP is equal to rec.ip. So if I save this, and we stop the server and start the server, and then we refresh this guy, we should have, this is our value where we've got all the keys of the request, but then here's our IP. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's necessarily correct because we want more, but this gets us a little bit closer. You see, we're getting an IP address. So we want to make this IP address, not just IP. So I'm going to go IP address and save that in this value. So if I save that, and then we come back to our local host, refresh, we just got to stop the server and start the server, and we refresh here, we should have our IP address in there. Okay, so with this, this tells us all the header, the options that are available. We've got an array. This is the keys of our request response object, right? We know that we can do rec.ip. I don't even see that in here. So there might be more to this, but we can do rec.ip. So here we have that. Now I'm going to keep feeding back the value, the keys here, just because it makes it so I can see what I'm doing a little bit more. But right now what we want to do is just add the other values that we know that we need in here. So we're doing IP address, we're doing language, and we're doing software. And we're going to feed those all back. And so each of those are key value pairs. This is a key, this is a value. So the key is IP address, the value is this IP address. Language is a key, and a value is this EN thing. And then we have another key, and these are all separated by commas, right? So what we want to do is set that up so that's how we win here. So we want to do language as the next one. And then we could say I'm just going to do rec.language for now, even though I'm not sure. I doubt that that'll actually work. And our next one will be software. And then we go rec.software. And so if I save this, stop the server and restart the server, and we go back to our local host and I refresh here, Now, it's possible that the reason that these aren't coming out is because they're not actually functioning. So what we have to say is get language from a user via node. How do I get browser language in JS? Cool. Language navigator. Looks like rec.headers.accept language to get the local user set. Okay, so we'll copy this guy, and then we'll go rec language accept server. And so let's go back to our server, stop the server and start it, and we'll see if this one worked. So if I refresh this page, let's see here. Who am I? Still doesn't work. Oh, I'm noticing. Oh, look at this. There's a syntax error in here. So if I save that, I need to actually have these all be key value pairs. So if I save that, and then stop the server and start the server, I'm just pressing the up key to start this, to run npm start. That's why I don't have to type it in each time. All right, awesome. So we've got our language in there, and so our language is, for me, I'm speaking English right now, and so that's where we are. For easier support, you may want to look up the local module. Local. Cool. Rec.headers accept language. So yeah, now we could kind of start, maybe we could just go, instead of saying IP address, maybe we could just say, I'm going to add another key value pair in here, even though we don't necessarily need it. I can say, rec inspection, and then I can go rec.headers. And this, okay, so let's just say, let's call it rec headers. Because my guess is that the software information will be in rec.headers. And so I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to stop the server and start the server and go back to the local host and refresh the page. Cool. It looks like, see, this is why I fed out headers. I want to get all the information from the headers. Now, if I look at all this, if none match, header accept language. Cool. So that's where we got this one. So our accept language came out to this key. And then, so agent, user agent. This is what we want. This is the object that we want from, if we look here, it says software, where is it? Yeah, this should give us, I guess, the user agent. So it didn't tell us that, but we were able to just pump it out, and then we could find it here. And so instead of saying software, rec.software, which doesn't work, we can do rec. I guess headers, yeah? And then we're just going to write in user-agent. Yeah, and now if we save this, stop the server and restart it, and we refresh here, we've got our software, which looks like it's supposed to be. And now, what about the IP? Yeah, node get full IP address. rec.connection.remote address. Okay, so maybe it's rec.connection.remote address. So let's see if that looks a little bit more. So I'm going to stop the server and start it. And then we'll come back over here, refresh the page. Address, IP address. It looks like we still have it, but it's just not as good as it's not the way that we actually want it. I'm going to actually get rid of this keys thing now. Maybe not. So what we want to do, yeah, we have an address. Now, I'm not sure if because I'm running it locally, maybe that's why I have that problem. So what I want to do now is I'm going to stop the local server. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my changes. So with git status, actually, you know what? If we're going to push our changes up, we should just comment out that headers, and then we should comment this out as well. And so now if we go npm start and we rerun this who am I, we have a basic version of what I think the right answer is. And so now we want to push that to our server, because right now, if we were to go to useful program request header and we rerun the who am I API, you see the production app doesn't have our local changes on it. So what we need to do is push our local changes to there. So we're going to say get status, and we're going to say get add, get commit, add request. What was it? Yeah, add request header parser, add get request header parser to API/who am I. So that's just a message that lets us know. And instead of saying got commit, you might want to say get commit. And then we say get push. Now get push is going to push us to GitHub, and so that's kind of like where we would be organizing it. We could work with people on that. We'll see that I did my last change 40 minutes ago, and now if I refresh the page, this server.js has been updated 17 seconds ago, so we know that we're pushed our changes up to GitHub, and now we can say get push Heroku master, and so that's pushing our changes to this our production web app where we're getting it served using Heroku.com. And so this is going to just go through the process, and once we have, this is still the old version of the app. As if it's doing this, the old version of your app will still serve. And so if we go into request header, but just then you can see that it started, and it's actually having a little bit of trouble right now. And you'll see here, this is on I press tab 3, and this is where I've typed in Heroku logs -- tail. You can see that up here, and it's got all of our old server language on it because like maybe I started it here or something like that. And so here they say they're restarting. It's changed from they've created the user and they started the app. It went from starting to up, and then we just got the GET request for the request header parser. And so now if I click here, you'll see that it shows that we've done this thing. And then you've got an even longer version of the IP address. So as I assumed it was looking like a strange IP address here because we're just doing local host. And so in production, it's actually showing our IP address because we actually had to go over the internet in order to access the server. Whereas when we're running it locally, the server is in our own little computer in front of us. And so this might actually pass the test now. So I'm just going to grab the root domain, not the whole API thing, and bring it back over to here. It's already there. I don't need to put it in there. For the time being, I'm actually going to add the GitHub URL as well because this might pass the test. So I'd say I've completed the challenge, and it looks like we're good. Cool. So now, we can, if we go back to our production app and we go back to the root API, we'll see that we actually have used the two API microservices projects complete here. So we've got our time service one, where we can come in and say, give us a timestamp for that, and it'll give us the timestamp. That's from the previous lesson. And then we can also, if we go to the root, we can go to our request header parser and click the who am I, and we get a header parsed back. And so that is what they're looking for. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Let me just run it one last time. Cool. It's alive. Cool. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next lesson.